Hello everybody, it's Sarah, and today I want to talk to you about the books that I have read so far this month. And to be honest, I gotta give myself a little pat on my shoulder because I've had quite a successful reading month so far, but I also have to say I think this isn't gonna be indicative of how successful my reading month is going to be as a whole, because I now have 2 weeks to finish the first draft of my bachelor paper, my second bachelor paper, my empirical bachelor paper, and I have some exams that I have to study for. So I think my reading time, aside for reading for uni, is over. However, I still want to share the 6 books that I read so far this month, and so yeah, let's just get right into it and start with my rereads, because this month I did start rereading again. I just really felt like it. I needed some old friends close to me, and the first book that I reread was Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson, which is one of his 2 standalone novels in his Cosmere universe. This series follows this princess who is supposed to marry the god king of the neighboring kingdom, and she's really scared, and actually it was her sister who was supposed to go and marry this god king, but now she's just suddenly thrust into this world of politics and gods and magic, and she's just really confused. And I have to say, I didn't enjoy Warbreaker as much as I remembered enjoying it. I still really love it, but the reason I mostly love it is because I love the characters, or most of the characters, a lot. Overall, plot-wise, I would say there isn't that much happening. You're really mostly just following the characters as they're trying to figure stuff out, and also there's a lot of setup for the Cosmere as a whole. However, we're gonna get a second book soon. Soon, probably in a few years, we're gonna get a second book. It's like on the horizon already. It's not just a weird shape somewhere in the future. But yeah, I'm really excited for the second book because I do love the characters, and yeah, I'm excited to continue my reread of the Cosmere, and let's see if I can finish it before Rhythm of War is going to be published in November. The second reread I have is a manga, and you gotta tell me whether or not you're interested in me in the future if I start reading mangas again, if you want me to talk about them or not. But that manga that I reread was Bloody Mary, the first volume. When I did my Twitter posts about my bookshelf reorganization, I got a comment that really motivated me to pick up some of the books in the series that I haven't read yet. I did start the first 2 books a year ago or something, and I picked up volume 3 and 4. I've only read book 1 so far, volume 1 so far, and it's basically about this exorcist guy and this vampire who wants to die. And this exorcist is the only person who can kill him, but he doesn't know how yet, and they try to find out together how they can kill this vampire. So yeah, I'm going to reread volumes 1 and 2 this month, and then continue on with 3 and 4 and see if I want to finish the series or not. That was it for the rereads I've finished so far this month, so let's now continue on with the books that I read. And as always, I'll go by star rating. And the book that I rated the least stars was Alcatraz vs. the Evil Librarians, The Knights of Crystallia. And I did enjoy this book. I overall really enjoy the Alcatraz series. Alcatraz is Brandon Sanderson's middle grade series, and we follow this guy who is part of a family where they have just this really weird talents. For example, our main character has the talent to break things. His grandfather has the talent to always come too late. Then another person in the family has the talent to stumble and fall at inopportune moments, and it's just overall a really humorous, a really funny series. However, I personally am not really the type to really enjoy middle grade that much, so I gave it 3 stars, but for a middle grade I enjoyed it as much as I can enjoy a middle grade almost. I think the only middle grade series that I enjoy more is the Percy Jackson series, so that's saying a lot for me that I gave it even 3 stars. Then I read Die Hexe von Zeil by Harald Pariger. This is a historical fiction novel following this woman who is thrown into jail as a witch during the witch trials in Germany in the 17th century, at the beginning of the 17th century. And we kind of follow her as she's tortured and stuff, so it's not exactly an easy book to read. However, it's still kind of written like a YA novel. And overall, I gave this 3.5 stars. I did enjoy reading it. I found it really easy to read. However, historical fiction just isn't something that I overly enjoy anymore. It's also quite short. You don't really get to know the characters that much. It's really mostly just about the horrors of the witch trials and how horribly the people were treated during that time, and not really that much about the story or the characters. So yeah, I enjoyed it, but it's just that. It's an enjoyable book. And with that, I also read both of the books from my TBR charts this month already. Then I finished Who Fears Death by Nnedi Okorafor. This is a book that I picked up in February. I think it was one of my picks from my TBR chart as well. And then I set it down and DNF'd it, but I did say that it was kind of a DNF for now because I didn't really feel like continuing on. And I think actually now that I finished this book, my main reason for setting it aside and not feeling like reading it was that I read it via Audible. And I don't mean by that that the audiobook was bad in any way. I actually really loved the audiobook. I thought the narrator had an amazing talent in bringing the story to life. However, I'm personally just not someone who really enjoys audiobooks. I get really distracted very easily listening to an audiobook. I kind of find myself not really following the story, not really falling into the story. And so it doesn't really matter how good an audiobook is, I can still really enjoy it. However, reading a whole book, reading a very long book like that just isn't something that's for me necessarily. Now I picked it up in the physical format, even though it's in German, and I really loved it, and I really enjoyed it. So Who Fears Death is a work of Afrofuturism. I think Nnedi Okorafor is one of the most well-known Afrofuturistic writers currently, and we follow Onyesumu, who is this kind of prophesied girl who will bring her people freedom. Because this story is set in a futuristic kind of post-apocalyptic Africa, where you have two people and one of them is enslaved to the other, or one of them are the slaves of the others. And it just has this thing that I appreciate in a lot of stories by Black authors and also by authors of color, where there's this kind of working through colonialism and working through Western or even not so Western history. And yeah, so I really enjoyed it. I had my problems with Onyesumu, the main character, at the beginning. I didn't like how angry she was. It was very understandable to me. However, I personally don't really enjoy following angry characters that much, so that might also have played into why I set it down in February. However, her development was amazing, and even though I'm also not a fan, not like the biggest fan of any of the other characters, they were engaging, but like not characters that would make it on any of my favorite characters list. Overall, the story itself I found absolutely beautifully told, and there's just something about storytelling by authors that aren't white that I just really enjoy, where you can really, if you're careful and if you pay attention, you can just really feel the culture and the history of that author in the writing. And that's just something that you rarely ever get with white writers, and that is something where I very much appreciate this book, and why I'm kind of sad that I'm not a fan of sci-fi and futuristic stories in general, because I would really love to read more Afrofuturism, and maybe I'm going to pick up some more books, but like, it's just not a setting that I particularly feel myself drawn to. So that's just something that I'm just torn over whether or not I'm gonna pick up more books or not in this genre of Afrofuturism. Also, I think I just forgot mentioning it. I gave this 4 or 4.5 stars, so I really did enjoy it a lot. And then only my third 5-star book so far this year. I don't know why I stopped giving out 5 stars. I feel like I just stopped giving out 5 stars to books unless I know that book is going to stay with me for a long time. It's weird. But anyway, this is my third 5-star book so far this year, and it's The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse by Charlie Mackay. And this book is so beautiful. It's kind of a children's book, kind of not. Like, it's a book with a lot of drawings and not a lot written in it. But the quotes in this book are just so meaningful and so beautiful and are just things that I think a lot of us should like pay attention to a little bit more. And honestly, it made me cry. This book made me cry and it just resonated within me so much. And I want to say I don't know why it resonated with me so much, but I do know why it resonated with me so much. And it's just beautiful. I think this book is just going to be a book that's gonna stay on my shelves, and I'm just going to continue leafing through it every now and again. And I'm just gonna treasure it forever. I don't know what else to say. I'm getting really distracted right now, leafing through it again. But I can highly recommend you pick this book up. It's so worth it. The drawings are beautiful. The things that are written within the book are also beautiful. And yeah, I just can highly recommend it. So lastly, let's quickly go through the 3 books that I am currently reading. The first of those is Lord of Chaos by Robert Jordan, which is book 6 in the Wheel of Time series, and I am about 500 pages in. That's about halfway through, and I think I'll definitely finish it by the end of the month. I'm currently reading 3 chapters a day, and that way I'm gonna be done in 10 days. So yeah, I have plenty of days where I can just not read it, and then plenty of days where I'll pick it up and continue on. Then I also picked up The Color Purple by Alice Walker, and I have a funny story about this book. I actually got this book after I helped my mom clean out my grandmother's flat after she moved to a retirement home back in February. I mean, she moved there longer ago, but we cleaned out the flat only in February. And a friend of my mom's, who's also my best friend's mom, helped us cleaning it out, and she saw this on the bookshelves and she just threw it in the kind of box that I had for the things that I want to take with me home and was like, you gotta read this. And I just thought it really funny that this book was in my grandmother's flat. And so I asked my mom about it because I just assumed that this is her copy, because she would be the person to read a book like this. By a book like this, I mean like a black queer classic, basically. And I don't know. I love my grandma. She's one of the strongest people that I know, but she's like a 96-year-old woman. So yeah, she has her issues that come with that age, so to speak. And my mom told me that, yeah, she actually gave it to my grandma as a book that she could read. And I was like, you gave a black queer book to my grandma? And she was like, yeah, I'm sure, why not? And yeah, so now I'm imagining my grandma having read this book, and it's just a really nice thing to imagine. And I really want her to have read this book, because that just makes her even more of an amazing woman than she already is, as is. And then the last book I'm also currently reading is Inkheart by Cornelia Funke, which is the first book in the Inkheart trilogy. This is also a reread for me, and I'm about 2/3 of the way in. And like, if you ever want to know if a hardcover has been read a lot, do this, and if it like just goes like this and doesn't properly stand up like this anymore, then you know that a hardcover has been read a lot, like, in fact. So yeah, I'm really loving this reread. I talked about this book a lot on my channel for some reason in the past few months, and so I just really finally wanted to pick it up again. And maybe I'll continue on with the whole trilogy, I don't know yet, but oh my god. I miss this book so much. This is the book that made me fall in love with reading. But I'll talk more about my feelings on this probably again in my final month wrap-up, so let's just leave it at that for now. And yeah, that was it for my mid-month wrap-up for June. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, maybe think about giving me a thumbs up and also maybe subscribing. Tell me in the comments down below how your reading month has gone so far, what you have read so far, what your thoughts are, if you have read any of the books that I have read this month. And all the links to my social media are as always down below, and I hope I'll see you soon. Bye!